From CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning and welcome to Facing South Florida. This morning we will get an update from the state's Emergency Management Director, Jared Moskowitz, on why many doctors and nurses are still having to use the same masks for 3 or 4 days in a row. And we'll talk to Congresswoman Debbie Murkowski-Powell as to why she is now under a 14-day quarantine. But first, as Broward moved to reopen many of its businesses, I had a chance to catch up with Broward County Commissioner Mark Bogen, and we started by talking about plans to open the beaches next week.
We're going to go by the rules set forth either by the CDC, the Florida Department of Health, and all the guidelines that go along with it, so we don't have a situation like what happened in Miami Beach or other places where people are not keeping social distancing and not adhering to rules. The public has to understand that the virus is just as contagious now as it's been 3 months ago. The public needs to understand and not let their guard down, and we need to have rules. And one thing I really was pressing on is we need to have enforcement to make sure those rules are followed.
So let's talk about the situation with the gyms for a moment.
Sure.
It seems if we've got a sort of a patchwork quilt of rules regarding gyms. Fort Lauderdale wanted to move forward with a proposal that essentially would have opened all gyms, commercial gyms and otherwise. The county, for its part, was trying to be more cautious, wanting to only open gyms in condominium settings and more private settings with a limitation on the number of people who could attend them. Can you actually operate a county where you've got different cities doing different things?
It's tough, you know. I mean, really, you want to keep everything consistent. Let's just talk about what you just about homeowner associations and condominiums. Remember, the gyms for those communities can only be open under certain conditions. There has to be somebody there watching to making sure that there's distancing. There has to be somebody to make sure that when a machine is being completed, when someone's done using a machine, that there's it's disinfected, it's wiped around. If a homeowner association or condominium doesn't have somebody able to do those two things, it's not allowed to be open. And with respect to all the other gyms, you know, the main gyms throughout the county, I believe you're going to see soon an order opening up the gyms under certain conditions. And I spoke to the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, and he is concerned, and he wants the gyms to be open under certain conditions so it's safe for the public. And but I agree with you that we need to do an order where it's consistent throughout the 31 cities of Broward County.
Are you comfortable? I know that Mayor Holness sort of held a conference call with the mayors of the different cities and actually had them take a vote, which I'm not sure if it's a sunshine violation since they're all not part of the same government body, but it gave the impression of basically a closed-door decision-making process that the public could not participate in which the mayors for the different cities were voting on whether or not they should have one plan or another issued countywide. Are you comfortable with that sort of maneuver?
You know, I'll tell you why I am. Because when I was mayor last year and there was a hurricane and I got all the mayors on the phone, you know, I needed input about certain things. And so whoever the mayor of the county is, I think it's important that the mayor is reaching out to the other mayors. And it's not really a vote. He's asking the sentiment of, hey, does everybody here want the beach open? Does everybody want the gym open? How does everybody feel about it? If the mayor, whoever the mayor is, doesn't do that, then they're going to be saying, well, look, I'm a city and you're not taking into account me as a city mayor. So you kind of lose if you don't do it and you lose if you do it. I think it's important that the mayor of the county reach out to the cities. I think it's important, though, that afterwards it could be publicized, and which it was done at our county commission meeting of how many mayors said this and how many mayors said that. But I think it really is important to reach out. But what you're talking about, I think, is more of transparency. And I think there needs to be a way to be more transparent. It's not a sunshine violation to go and talk to mayors of other cities. But I think there needs to be maybe greater transparency, possibly, if people want to know, hey, what does my mayor think of this and stuff. But I think it's important that the county mayor does reach out and take in everybody's opinion.
Does this crisis sort of suggest that Broward County would do better with a strong mayor form of government? I mean, the discussion that we've had so far about the county administrator having to have one central authority be able to make decisions in a crisis, the mayor of Broward County, as you well know, it's more of an honorary position than it is a ceremonial position than anything else. Does this make it the argument for a strong mayor moving forward?
You know, I can argue either way. I'm a lawyer, so I can argue either way, Jim, and I can argue why this is a good example of why we should have an elected mayor. And I could argue the other way of, well, we have an administrator that's in touch with all the commissioners and she's acting as our agent. She's acting on behalf of us. But, you know,
what's your opinion though? Forget what arguments you could make.
Well,
do you believe that it's time for a strong mayor in Broward County?
I don't think a strong, the word, I think I'm coming around to the thought of, I was against having an elected mayor. I'm coming around to where I think we could use an elected mayor. A strong elected mayor is a different, I don't think it's wise to have somebody with all that power for a $6 billion corporation, which we are, 6,000 employees. I come from Chicago. I saw what a strong mayor can do and what trouble we can get in. So I like our form of government, but I think we need an elected mayor with limited powers and limited authority.
I feel like I should get your impressions as to what's going on in the race for Broward County Sheriff. I mean, this is a race like few we've seen. I mean, we're used to strange and weird and dirty politics in South Florida, but what's going on with Broward County right now is quite amazing. What do you make of all the revelations about Sheriff Tony?
You know, I'm staying out of it, to be honest with you. I've heard so many different things. They come at him with one thing, and then he says, no, that's not true. And so I think it's only fair to comment when I know all the facts. And since I don't know all the facts, and this involves someone's life, you know, in politics, people like to go and make all these comments about people. And I think that's pretty bad about politics. I don't know the truth. I don't know all the facts. It's certainly, you know, concerning with all these things coming out. But again, I'm sure the sheriff has got answers for this, and I haven't heard him yet. I haven't had a chance to hear what he had to say.
Have you endorsed anyone in this race, and are you going to?
I'm really staying out of it. The county commissioners work so closely with the sheriff, whoever the sheriff is, and you know, I think a lot of the candidates all have good qualities, and we all have. I have my strengths and my weaknesses, and we all have strengths and weaknesses. And whoever that sheriff is elected by the people, I think we need to work with them. And I don't want to be, you know, tied where, oh, I need to support this one candidate, and then if the other candidate wins, there'll be some kind of, you know, resentment. So the people of this county need to choose who they want, and I'm staying publicly out of it.
When we come back, Florida's Emergency Management Director, Jared Moskowitz.